Hey guys, Jay here. Quick update video on this build. So I am at the magical level of 69. I am, I think, 9 level away from wearing all of my gears that I prepared here. This item, by the way, got insanely more expensive. So if you want to play this build, snatch one of this. You don't need like close to 50% reduced charm duration. I think you just need like 35% or above, and I will explain in a little bit when I explain my setup. So I do have a little bit of changes compared to the original setup from Cooler Peon, and I do know that right now there is another version going on, that is the Thorn version from Counteract, which is, I would say, hands down, really cool. I think using Thorn with this one, I actually thought of it as well, but the Thorn, well, as I predicted, because I tried to theory crafted it, the Thorn have a problem of you are using too many uniques that either like occupy the same slot as one of the uniques that we really want to use, or it is just a slot of unique items that you can use, for example, for this boots. Instead of this 35% movement speed boots with a lot of life and resistances, you have to use the crit Thorn boots, which is 20% movement speed, and just Thorn crit. So you don't have any defensive stat from there. So Thorn, again, insanely cool and totally viable as a zero button option. But I think if you want to do a little bit safer in the end game, if you want to have more defensive character, you should look for another setup. And I would try to have a setup for you guys in this build. Anyway, I am not yet at the level that I can transition into a zero button build, but I want to make this update because, well, this is actually a very important stage of the character. Why? So level 52 is the level where you can use Pragmatism. This will allow you to start using Beir's Anguish as your main damage dealer, and it is, boy oh boy, it is insanely good whenever you can start using it. So level 52, before level 52, I would highly recommend to use Rick Stomping Ground. So Rick Stomper. As the witch, what I did is I used Rick's Stomping Ground with a bunch of uniques, and here I just go out and basically travel. I don't take any like specific points here. I just travel and get as much strength as possible. Some of these nodes here got converted into dexterity and intelligence because later on, when I switched to pragmatism, I need some dex and I need some attribute for other gears and other gems. But before that, rake stomping, just use a low level rake and just get as much strength as possible while traveling. As you can see here, pretty much I just travel around and get as much strength as possible. That is enough to carry me very easily and comfortably to level 52 insanely quickly. So highly recommended that. If you want to know a little bit more about that particular setup, I will leave the link in the description. I do have a, like, even as a first characters with Rick Stomp, that is my very first character, so it is insanely good for leveling. Anyway, when you actually can use a pragmatism, I would use also, of course, Beir's Anguish. These two items are the core. I will use Scytha's Spear, and the skill that I am using for triggering the crit to ignite myself. By that point, you should easily have one ascendancy point. Greening Immolation is going to be the choice. This allows you to self-ignite. And self-ignite on crit, if you use the spear field over here, you can see with one single use of spear field, let me just show you in an area without any spear, right? One single use, you have a lot of spears. You just need one of these to actually crit in order to trigger the ignite. So this is an insane skill for this. And I pretty much don't have any crit chance scaling anywhere. I simply use a tooling spear field with pinpoint critical in inevitable critical. So these two is enough for me to pretty much every time I put spear field down, if this thing is not on activated, then it will activate. So every single time I will get a crit. My crit chance with spear field, by the way, is the, let me see here. Okay, 23.09%. So 23% around. That is the first thing. I also am using this along with this combo. So this is the helmet that I would highly recommend to use before we can actually afford to get the Alpha's Howl. This helmet is insane. This helmet gives you a bunch of radius for your presence, so AoE for presence. It is not as good as Alpha's Howl, but it's still very, very good. Regardless, it also gives you enemies in your presence have at least 10% of life reserve. I am having a good corruption here for 12%. So technically, all of my enemies that I'm fighting lost 12% health. So it is a 12% damage on the build, more. So everything that I fight would just be 12% weaker. So yeah, it's just a lot of extra damage, and it also gives you a bunch of radius for your presence area of effect. So if you want to, this can be a totally viable and cheap way to do it. Right now, it is not ready in the Exile exchange here, but this one is a 1 Exalt item. So there is like thousands of it on the market. Don't need to worry about it. All right. This is still the leveling boots, trample toe. I will replace it later at level 75 with my other boots. A random rare belt. Before this one, I used Meganord for a lot of strength to level Orion. And yeah, just a bunch of rares with life resistances. So, in terms of skill, I am using Rake, and you can use Rake with shield, raise shield, or parry to basically move around much more quicker. I am not very good at this, but yeah, I am not very good at this at all, but you can use this trick to move around much faster than usual, and basically you can mitigate the movement speed from your... Yes, again, I'm not very good at this, but this other people can do this much quicker than I am exposing myself from being a bad player here. Anyway, let's actually do a quick map, right? Augury. Augury is actually a very good map to showcase how insanely good this build is. It has a lot of walls, and I will show you that walls doesn't mean anything to this build. Everything in our presence area is going to get ignited, even if it is hiding behind the thickest of wall possible. Look at this. Okay, this guy is actually not in the presence area. So here it is, and yeah. Yep. The presence area for me currently is this big. So you can see I am not using a scepter with increased area presence yet, so it can be improved by a lot still. Anyway, I am pretty happy with the area that I'm having here. That is one single ignite, and that exile is dead. So yeah, the damage is pretty good. Everything that is rare, exile, white, magic, just die instantly, and we can trigger the barriers very comfortably using one spear fill. I think this is probably the best skill that you can use almost instantly. When you used it, you will get it. That one doesn't trigger because this is on effect, so it cannot trigger again. Okay, wait, what is happening with these guys? Yeah, these guys probably have some bug there. They don't take damage, so yeah. Very comfy. On my jewels, I actually have a bunch of life and mana gain on kill as well, which is really good. There's one thing that I want to talk about, which is you see that I'm having Black Flame here, but I'm not using it. So I am trying to see if I can have a setup without using Black Flame. Black Flame is insane for scaling single target. That is like without a doubt. But we can potentially use Crackle Creep over here. Crackle Creep is a very cheap item. It gives you Ignite, you inflict also spread to enemies within 1.5 meter. So it basically is Ignite Proliferation from POE1, which is really good. It does have a 1 second delay if you read it at the end, right? There is a 1 second delay. But what it does is, for example, here, right? You will see that monster here, they don't get ignited, but they walk into the ignite area, and after 1 second, they will take the ignite. So this is really good in swarmy situation. For example, say you want to do, let's just say, I think the most swarmy situation is going to be the Simulacrum. Or you can do the Ritual is going to be pretty swarm as well. You can do expedition. Monster can be like a lot. There can be a lot of monster, and so anything that is relatively fast, if it tries to enter your presence, and you are not having the Beirus Anguish on cooldown, so it is still on the duration of the charm, so it cannot be triggered again, which means you can no longer apply a ignite immediately to the other monster that just enter the presence area. So that can be dangerous if they do a lot of damage and just kill your character, right? Obviously, I've tried to build tanky, so probably it's not going to happen, but let's just say that is the situation. Well, they can still be ignited with this ring, with Crackle Creep. So I think Crackle Creep is actually a viable option for mapping. It is really comfortable, really. It is just really comfortable. So, okay, let me just quickly do the boss here. All right, I took a bunch of damage there. It might look somewhat serious, but I don't think I am in trouble that much with this much life. And how the enemies constantly just die around the character, and we can just shoot back up to full life very quickly. Okay, so here we have the final rare, and let's just go to kill the boss of this map, right? So, 1 spear field, 2 spear field, just to reset the ignite. 3. Now we get a new ignite, and I think we aggravate as well because the spear field hits a lot of times. I think in the end game, we might be using the Scyther Spear in the offhand to aggravate the bleed and then aggravate the ignite for like extra single target damage. And I think Spear Field is probably going to be the best thing that you can use. It is not going to be stab. I think Spear Field here is incredible for this one. It can help to trigger the bleed very consistently as well, as you can see. I don't really have any critical scaling from skill tree or anything, and it is very reliable to trigger the crit. So yeah, stay tuned for the next video. It is going to be the end game setup. This is the mid game setup and what I am using to leveling the character to the point where I can actually transition into the final form of the build. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoy, and if you do, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned for more content. Also, I will leave the link to the original video where I know about Beirus Anguish, which is cooler peon, and then also I will leave the link to what I think is a really cool version of the build, which is the Thorn version from Kauto Rack. Not that they need any further exposure. Those videos already got a lot of views. So yeah, see ya.